And this is the Exodus, if you will. And if you remember, Moses and Aaron have made I like how Bob puts it here, and I'll just go ahead and read this before we get to the screen. The first request to Pharaoh was a very reasonable request. Even slaves should have had the right to worship their God, and that was what Moses and Aaron asked for. They did not at this point ask to leave the land, never to return. So they made what you could say is a reasonable request, 3 days, if you will. And just to throw this out to y'all, what was Pharaoh's response? Was he willing to sure, go ahead? What was, yes?
His response was, you don't have a lot of time on your hands. You go out into the desert for 3 days.
Exactly. And for their request, what did they receive? I guess you could say more work, no straw. Not even like as Brother Jolly pointed out, you've got too much time on your hands. You were getting straw. Now you're going to have to go get it yourself. That was something that was being supplied, and so it did not go well. Their bondage has been made worse. They're being punished, and their labor is intensified. And here in Exodus, and we'd already covered this, but I wanted to read this again and then get into the next one. In Exodus 6:5-8. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians keep in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. Wherefore, say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under these burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God, which bringeth you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. And I will bring you in unto the land concerning the which I did swear to give it to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and I'll give it to you for a heritage. I am the Lord. And so we see this where this is going to be a very unique relationship. I will be your God, and you will be my people. And if you think about it today, isn't that the relationship we have with God? He is our God, and we are His people. But here he's talking to that, and you'll see that more and more where he's these are my people. And one of the things that as we said, things didn't go well, and I think one of the mistakes that Moses made, and I guess we can all make it, we tend to see and hear what we want to. As I mentioned before last time, how Jesus had told his disciples that he was going to suffer and die, and it's like they just didn't get it. They didn't hear that. God's told Moses, this is not going to be like he's just going to let you go. No, it's going to take some with a strong hand, as we've read it. It will take a strong hand. It's going to take some effort, but it will be done. And so we see Moses has been ignoring God's warnings that Pharaoh would not listen to him at first. Moses was like so many of us. He did not heed the warnings until he came face to face with the reality. He had not yet learned to rely upon God. And so the point is, we get to see this in Moses. And I think, as I study this, I like to make connections, and I can be that person too. I can think, well, this is how things should go, and when things don't go a certain way, what's wrong? Something's up, And so it's one of those things that we've got to be very careful. But I wanted to read this as well, and notice how God is working with Moses. Instead of God saying, I told you, rather than rebuking Moses at this point for his lack of spiritual strength and understanding, God realized he needed assurance so that his faith could grow. And so we see how he tells Moses these things, And so he's working with Moses. You know, we think of Moses and you know, before we started the study, I guess we tend to, you know, like King David, you think of the high points, you know, him going against Goliath and stuff like that. But these are real people, real emotions, real situations. We're like us, and they have their weaknesses. And so that's one of the things that I like to relate to, because I would hate to think that, again, as I've said it before, if we only had the high points, I'd be like, there's no way. I have no chance. But the point is, they had their weaknesses, and it took effort, and it took growth. And hopefully that's how we see ourselves, a work in progress. And that's what Moses is. Any thoughts on that? Yes.
Another thing we'll notice from this point on, as we pointed out in our study, Walter's study, that God begins referring to himself by his name.
Mm-hmm.
Yahweh, I am the Lord.
Yeah, I am, yeah. Yep. Powerful. And
It's like signing a document almost. Whenever he gives a statement, he puts his stamp on it.
mm-hmm. And there should be no question. When God says it, that should settle the matter right there. Unfortunately, we live in a world that you know, there's a lot of people this morning doing all kinds of things, and their minds aren't where they should be, and their bodies are not where they should be. And I'm thankful for y'all for being out this morning, because your minds are focused where it should be. Any other thoughts on that before I move on? So we see, and Moses spoke unto the children of Israel, but they hearkened not unto Moses for anguish of spirit and for cruel bondage. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Go in and speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that he let the children of Israel go out of his hand. And Moses spake before the Lord, saying, Behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips? And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, and gave them a charge unto the children of Israel and to Pharaoh king of Egypt to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. What do you make of that, where Moses said, I'm of uncircumcised lips?
Well,
Yes.
he's referring to Pharaoh, the uncircumcised. And how shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips?
Yeah. I think he's actually referring to his lips, to Moses' lips, that he's calling his lips uncircumcised. And what would that kind of indicate there?
He feels unsure of his ability to lead people, but he's not realizing he's not the one who's going to lead them.
Right.
Ultimately, God is.
Yes. And Barry, you had to...
Going to go back up to the previous verses, it's pretty clear that who's doing this.
Uh-huh.
It's not going to be Moses' power. If you go back to verse 6, you'll see, and this may be reading too much into it, but there's 7 times that God says, I will,
Mm-hmm.
at that point. It talks about deliverance, and rescuing them, and redeeming them, and taking them into the promised land, you know, what it's going to give them. So
Mhm.
it's 7 times. That's a number that, you know, is a significant number, because 7 is
A complete number.
Completeness or perfection. So we see that what God has set up for them, and I relate this to us, is something that's perfect. Deliverance is going to be perfect and complete.
Mm-hmm.
And we see the people reject it. Just like most people nowadays reject what God has set up to be perfect and complete.
And if Moses had gotten it, you know, like you said, it's not his power. It's not like his ability. And when he says it, I think that's how he's still seeing. Hey, I'm not up to the task. Bob and Walter in his material, he says of clumsy speech. I put also not fit for the task, not acceptable to do the job. And I think back to that incident when he was coming to Egypt. And you remember that kind of puts that incident in there where Zipporah had to step in. Moses had not circumcised his youngest son. And God whatever he did to Moses, I mean, I think in there it said sought to kill him. You know, he was getting a point across. Take care of it now. And it makes me wonder if that got Moses' attention, and he goes, you know, hey, it's like I'm not fit for this. I'm not up to it. Yeah. So
We'll see Moses later on. He's developing Moses.
Yep.
Moses is letting God lead him, and God's bringing Moses along, and we'll see Moses later be stronger and do some things later on that he probably wouldn't.
he's a work in progress. And so, so, you know, that's one of the things I hope we really connect with is, you know, Moses and you got, I mean, this is a pretty tough situation, and he's already had failure. You know, now that you know, you want me to talk to Pharaoh, the children of Israel won't even listen to me, and I'm gonna go talk to Pharaoh. Really, you think? And then what's interesting, we see this where it just kind of drops this in here, this genealogy. And I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen here, and I was going to read kind of what Bob had to say a little bit about that too. This genealogy. And the following genealogy was simply intended to show that Moses and Aaron came in a direct line from Abraham and to ascertain the time of Israel's deliverance. The whole account from Exodus 6:14 to 26, inclusive of sort of a parenthesis, and does not belong to the narration. So it kind of like drops it in here, which is, you know, kind of interesting. And we have the following verses, not a complete genealogy, but a summary account of the family of the two brothers. Moses records for the satisfaction of Hebrew readers to whom genealogical questions were always interesting, the descent position of the designated leaders of the nation. And let's see. Oh, yeah. Bob says here, Moses interrupts the narrative at this point to give us the lineage of himself and Aaron to tell who these men were and how they fit into the rest of the families of Israel. And so, you know, it's not, you know, just an ongoing thing. It does give us some very good information. It'd be something worth, you know, us looking at. But but I think that's the essence and the point of it. He drops it in there, you know, that Moses and Aaron have a direct connection. They're not, you know, because you think of Moses. Wait a minute, he was the Egyptian. You know, if you notice back how they. When he first left Egypt, they were. You know, I guess he looked like an Egyptian. I don't know how he dressed or whatever, but he's an Egyptian. And but no, he has direct connections, and he's part of the people of God for sure. Any thoughts on that? Yes.
Just thinking about who the audience was again, who Exodus was originally written to, that second generation that was about to enter into the promised land. Moses was writing these words, and so why would this genealogy in particular be important? Again, looking at God's covenant faithfulness to his people. He's keeping his promises. That line has been sustained. And here we still have a Redeemer that's come, Moses. Joshua is going to come after that to bring them into the land. We have the Levites here, those that would still carry out the worship. So there's just a lot that I think would be important for that original.
It just really fits together.
It does.
Yeah.
And we can see that now, hindsight, all of it fitting together. But anyway, just.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, to see, you know, God's taking care of everything. As we would say, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. You know, that incident I mentioned just a little while ago about Moses not circumcising his younger son. That was something that had to be done. With Moses in his position, he's going to lead the people. Everything, you know, God has, you know, expectations, and we need to meet those expectations. He made sure that Moses did, and then Moses is letting those know, hey, all of this is working together, and this isn't just something coming together, and it's just happened to be. No, this is a plan of God, and it's something that everything fits together. And so when we look at the purpose of God and how He does things, it all works together. There's always, you know, there's depth to it, if you will. Any other thoughts or anything? And it goes, these are Aaron and Moses, to whom the Lord said, bring out these people of Israel from the land of Egypt by their host. It was they who spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, about bringing out the people of Israel from Egypt. This Moses and this Aaron, on the day when Moses spoke, on this day when the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt, the Lord said to Moses, I am the Lord. Tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I say to you. But Moses said to the Lord, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips. How will Pharaoh listen to me? So he's like recounting. Yes.
That clears it up for me.
There you go. Okay. Yeah.
It means someone who does not speak well.
Right. That clumsy or not he doesn't feel, if you were, again, like that situation with Moses, his younger son, something's missing and it needs to be taken care of. And I think Moses felt like, as a speaker, you got the wrong guy. I'm not the one. And how did God answer that to Moses? How is Moses gonna speak to Pharaoh? When he said, I'm not eloquent, I'm a slow speaker.
He's going to speak through Aaron.
Exactly. He's going to, Aaron's, and I guess that's what you're going to say, yeah, through Aaron. So God is taking care of all of these things that Moses, I can't do it because, no, God's got that taken care of. And so as we say, all the bases are covered. Any other thoughts or anything? And the Lord said unto Moses, see, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand on Egypt, and bring forth mine armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch forth my hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. And Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded them, so did they. And Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 3 years old when they spake unto Pharaoh. So Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83. And one of the things, I guess, in our mind, we tend to think, wow, did they have trouble getting around? Or, no, they good shape. They were in good shape. And that older men, but still able to do what needed to be done. And, looking at that, one of the things I wanted to ask y'all, if I've got my... I had written that on something. But I may not have gotten it. I wanted to ask y'all, so these signs and wonders, who are these signs and wonders for? Think about it. How broad could this be? These signs and wonders that he's going to do in Egypt with a strong hand. How broad can this actually be? Well, we see one group it's going to affect. The Egyptians will know. Who else is going to know? Say the Hebrews would know? Yeah, the Israelites would know, no question. What about you? Would you know? Yes, Chris?
Well, through the whole events, we see that the surrounding nations do that too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly, yeah.
Through the whole events, the plagues and the leaving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Conquering of the eventual conquering of the land. And the nations trying to battle who God was.
Kind of like at Jericho, and we've heard, yeah. You make a very good point, yeah. I didn't actually write that down, but that's something that, yeah. Not only would the Egyptians know, the Jewish people would know, and there should be no question, surrounding people would know, but then through the years, it should be with us as well. We weren't there to see them, but do you doubt? Yes, Purby.
It's going to get to the point. People are going to ask Pharaoh to let them go. If they realize, and but he won't do it because of his hard heart.
Exactly. And so you see, the Egyptians shall know. And you're right. They're like, hey, do you not know that Egypt is destroyed? But y'all make good points. I appreciate that. Any other? I don't want to overlook anybody. And the Lord spake unto Moses, unto Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh, and I don't think I turned this on. There we go. I'm sorry. Hopefully y'all were able to still hear me, and you might liked it better with it off. But the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a miracle for you, then you shall say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh, and they did as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and sorcerers now, the magicians of Egypt, and they did in like manner with their enchantments, for they cast down every man his rod and became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And so, God given this sign, and I think it's one of those things that God knew that, well, I'll read what Bob has to say here. Did the magicians of Egypt really turn their rods into serpents? It is not clear whether they did or not. Let me see. But let me drop down to here. There is no denying the use of trickery and deceit by the servants of Satan. On the other hand, in the days of the New Testament, Satan had miraculous power to possess men. He goes into that. I wanted to get down to, here's what I wanted to get down to. Ancient literature, however, tells of those in Egypt who were adept at snake charming and boasted that they could turn snakes into sticks. The footnote for the word magician is soothsayer priest. In view of this information, it's more likely that these were fakers, men who used their wiles to further their control over the people in the name of their false gods. What they claimed to be able to do by trickery, Aaron really did so by the power of God. And there's something I was reading about how with snakes, you do certain things. In fact, I think Gracie was watching something where this guy goes out and he does all these daring feats, and he wanted to kiss a cobra. And he actually did. He didn't actually kiss it he kissed it on top of the head. But what you find out is that people who work with snakes, they know how to do certain things with them. And if you put pressure on a certain place on them or whatever, and I have no doubt they could, it would seem like duplicate what Aaron was doing. But what was Aaron really doing? What was going on here? Was his really a snake, and it was really a staff. It was really a stick, and a miracle, an absolute miracle, no doubt. But to Pharaoh, we can do that too. No, so that's not what's gonna be. But it's interesting that Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods, which should have shown Pharaoh. It should have showed him that. Wait a minute, they don't normally do that. But again, it was one of those things that Pharaoh has a very hard heart, very proud man, and he's in a position that he, if it doesn't, I guess it didn't directly affect him per se, like, life-threatening. So he could easily just dismiss it as though it were nothing. And so that brings us to the plagues upon Egypt. And we're going to look that this is going to be God's, as God says, with a strong hand. And we look at these, and we're going to actually get into each individual one. We're going to read about each individual one, but this is a breakdown. We're going to see water turned to blood, the amphibians or frogs, lice, flies, disease on the livestock, unhealable boils, hail and fire, locusts, darkness, and death of the firstborn. And that death of the firstborn, one of the interesting things about it, when you go back to, I think it's Exodus chapter 4, you know, what's interesting, you know, again, how things fit together. This is Exodus 4 and verse 22. This is when Moses is going to Egypt. You know, this is when he's going to Egypt, and this is the Lord talking to him in verse 22. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, "Thus says the Lord, Israel is my son, my firstborn. So I say to you, let my son go, that he may serve me. But if you refuse to let him go, indeed I will kill your son, your firstborn." And that's kind of a, you know, it might be kind of a clue as to just how bad it's going to have to get. And that last plague is going to be the one that, as we all know, but we'll get into the details. And so, and the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened; he refuseth to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out to the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come, and the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. And I apologize sometimes for my reading, because I'm used to reading the King James and the New King James, and the King James is a little more, yeah. And thou shalt say unto him, the Lord God of the Hebrews has sent me unto thee, saying, let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith the Lord, in this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in thy hand upon the waters in which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood, and the fish in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river. And so, the thing about Egypt, you know, look at it, and I'll go ahead and mention this, and I might read something from his book, but we'll also see this in just a minute. I'll put it up on the screen. But you gotta think how important the Nile was to Egypt. What basically is Egypt? What is that land like? Lush trees everywhere? Desert, exactly. And lots of sand, and so rainfall is you know, I don't know that they get much rainfall there. And so the Nile would be, I mean, that would be very important to them. So the principle of harmony, known to the Egyptians as Ma'at, was the highest importance in Egyptian life and in the afterlife, and their religion was fully integrated with every aspect of existence. The geography of the Nile River may have influenced this belief, unlike the Tigris and the Euphrates, which needed to be tamed on account of their unpredictable natures. The Nile's consistent rise in the middle of July and fall in September gave Egyptians a dependable source of nourishment for vegetation over the year. So the thing is, the Nile, and you know, one day I'd love to go see it, but you know, compared to the Tigris and the Euphrates, it's you know, I imagine it you know, very calm. Doesn't, you know, you don't have rapids and all this kind of stuff. It would be something that, you know, very dependable, if you will. Not surprisingly, the Egyptians came to believe that the gods caused the river's annual floods, which deposited the fertile black soil along the arid banks. According to some myths, it was Isis who taught the people the skills of agriculture. In others, it is Osiris, and in time, the people would develop canals, irrigation, and sophisticated systems to work the land. So, very consistent, very predictable, and they attributed this to gods. You know, hey, this is, you know, it's just like, you know, this is how things work. The river became known as the father of life and the mother of all men, and was considered a manifestation of the god Hapi. I don't know how to pronounce Hapi, who blessed the land with life. And so we see that this particular God was the God of the flood, was especially important to ancient Egyptians because he brought the flood every year, and the flood deposited the rich silt on the banks of the Nile. So the point is that this was integrated in their lives, and the Nile was most important to them, or very significant. In the plagues, God turned the things in which the Egyptians trusted into curses. Herodotus called Egypt the gift of the Nile. This plague turned the Nile River, which the Egyptians worshipped, into a foul river of death. And so, and the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod, and let me pause here. Notice that rod again, as I think I've mentioned before. He used it as turn into a serpent, but this rod is a focal point, if you will. What was the power in the rod? No, it was God, but God chose for this to be the focal point, as it were, and. So take thy rod and stretch out thy hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers and their ponds, and upon all the pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and vessels of stone. And Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood, and fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And so, but we're going to notice something here. I don't know how they did it, and the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened. So again, like the snakes or the serpents. And then here, they come out and they make it appear as though, we can do the same thing too. Now, what's interesting, and we'll touch on this again, is that while they appeared to duplicate it, what was something they couldn't do? Exactly, they couldn't but they're magic. They've got the power. No, they don't, do they? And so. Neither did he hearken, again, this is Pharaoh. Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Neither did he hearken unto them as the Lord had said. And the Lord turned and went into, and Pharaoh turned and went into his house. Neither did he set his heart to this also. And all the Egyptians digged around about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water of the river. And 7 days were fulfilled after the Lord had smitten the river. So I think they were able to go and dig, if you will, and find water. Because 7 days, it's like they had places that they could actually still get water, but it took effort, and people should not wait. This is everywhere. We have water in even in wood and stone and various places. All of this is turned to blood. Again, I'm sure it got their attention, but Pharaoh just seemed like he just passed. Magicians can do that too, and just he. The bottom line is he wanted what he wanted, and letting the people go was not part of what he wanted. And so he could just dismiss this as though it were, but I'm sure there were people that got water for him, though. Just a reminder that the heart of Pharaoh was hardened by his own choices. And that's one of the things that I want us to get when it talks about God hardening his heart. Yeah, he put that in front of Pharaoh, and this is what you need to do. This is what you will do. And Pharaoh is like, nope, don't think so. And he had choices, and so it shows he was hardened by his own choices. God does not force men to do good or ill, and if otherwise, sin would be God's fault. If God had taken Pharaoh and said, it doesn't matter what you do, you're a puppet, and I'm just going to make you do whatever. God doesn't do that. He gives us free will. He gave Pharaoh free will. And yes.
You mentioned these magicians, but he never calls them by name. But Paul does mention
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And because, but it said, you said they made a choice. They just resisted what God was doing. And the magicians did too. That's what he says here. Paul says he uses them an example to make a point. He says they're ever learning but never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Now, as Janus and Jamesbury withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth. So they were resisting the truth, what they saw, God working. And he says, men of corrupt mind, reprobates concerning the faith. So you can, sometimes when you present the truth to people, they have a choice. They can resist it just like these men, just like those magicians, just like Pharaoh did.
Well, when you've been lying to the people and you got them under your control and you do these things and people are like, oh, you must be, something. You can see with that they would have that kind of spirit. But they, like you said, ever learning but never able to come to the truth. We kind of see what we want to, and we really do what we want to.
Sometimes people have been taught things maybe all their life, and then when you present the truth to them, and you can say they said, do you understand it? Yeah, but they still
They go right back to whatever, yeah.
Go back to what they've been taught all their life, even though it don't have anything to do with Scripture. Maybe if you show them the Scripture, and they will not accept it because they're going to go back to what they've been taught. Yeah.
Do you realize that my family might not accept me if I now it's this is about your soul, it's about God. Yeah. But you're exactly right. People for various reasons they're going to do what they want to do, and they may feel like, well, I'm kind of forced into that. No. Pharaoh wasn't forced, if you will. He had a choice, but God knew his heart, knew exactly how he would react, and there are people today with the same kind of hardened hearts. I hope we don't become like that, or maybe at one time we were like that. Maybe our hearts were hardened at some point in our life.
That's always been kind of a thing in the Bible. Like when Paul writes to Thessalonica, he says, with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. Why do they perish? He says, because they receive not the love of the truth.
Yeah. They don't have an honest heart.
He said, because they don't love the truth.
They don't love the truth. They don't have an honest heart.
Something to believe. He goes, I'll send them something to believe. Be alive.
Yeah.
They don't love the truth.
They don't love, and because of the choices they make, that's what they want. That's kind of the direction they want to go, and that's what we see in Pharaoh. A perfect example of that. Of someone just, I will not yield. I will not. It's my way, and in this particular situation, it fit right in with God's purpose of what He wanted accomplished, and Pharaoh, you think about the Son of God being hung on a cross and all the people involved in that, and you got to think Satan thought, I got him. We're going to destroy. We're going to, Son of God. We'll take care of him. God had a purpose, and and He let them make their choices, but His purpose was fulfilled, and Pharaoh's going to be in the same thing. Pharaoh was too proud to submit to God. The tricks of the court were enough to convince a stubborn man to do what he wanted to do anyway. And that's the essence of it right there. And that's what people do. They do what they want to anyway. They can make excuses, or they can, I got reasons why. No. It all comes down to, do you have an honest heart? And like Rodney was talking about, do you love the truth? There's a lesson for all time. Many are called, but few are chosen. And unfortunately, most are not going to have that love of the truth. They're not going to want to submit. They want to do what they want to do. Any other thoughts or anything before we move on? Yes.
I think we also see here the mercy of God. Because people were able to go and find water. They had to dig wells. It wasn't easy.
You're right.
The important people like Pharaoh and his magicians, people in the courts, they could just send somebody out to get water, dig a well and bring me water.
Yeah.
It was not easy, and most of the people of the land suffered during this time, but God did make a way for them to To have 7 days without water in the desert,
Yeah.
you die.
Exactly. So you're exactly right. There was mercy on God's part, and God's trying to get their attention, and it's beginning. It's starting. But like you say, what if there were no options at all? Well, then they would have died. Yeah. So, but we see the mercy of God. And the Lord spake unto Moses, Go unto Pharaoh and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. And if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite thy borders with frogs. And the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come in thine house, and into thy bedchamber, and upon thy bed, and into the house of thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy ovens, and into thy kneading troughs. And the frogs shall come up both on thee and upon the people and upon all thy servants. So he's got a warning in this one, hey, the frogs are coming, if you don't. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, Stretch forth thy hand with thy rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. And so we see where, again, this is something that, but as we've mentioned, they could bring the frogs, but what could the magicians not do?
Couldn't get rid of them.
Couldn't make them go away, couldn't get rid of them. You're exactly right, yeah. Now, they could bring them, but they couldn't get rid of them. Fakery of the magicians is seen here. They had power to bring the frogs, the last thing needed, but could not eliminate them. So that's exactly right. Let us not discount the effect of this plague upon the lives of the Egyptians. Consider Psalm 78, 44 and 45, and right here in the King James. And he had turned the rivers. Turned the rivers into blood, and their floods, that they could not drink. He sent divers sorts of flies among them, which devoured them, and frogs which destroyed them. And if you turn to Psalm 78, that's what you see, where it talks about frogs destroying them. Well, it's going to get Pharaoh's attention. And let me see if I can catch this last thing in, and then we'll. In fact, it was in response to this invasion of little frogs that Pharaoh makes his first plea, and we have to pause there. We'll get into that. They finally get Pharaoh's attention.